I had an epiphany while watching Vinland Saga. You know those moments where you're just watching another episode and then you realize that there's actually more to the scene than it seems? Well, that was me when I saw Thorfinn fighting without a sword. At first, I'm like, let's go, he's finally fighting, and he's fighting without a sword, which is cool, I guess. He's more peaceful. Then I was like, holy shit. He's fighting without a sword. Remember what his father said? This is exactly what he was talking about. It all makes sense now, and I can finally see where this anime is going.
こんなものに頼らざるを得んのは俺が未熟だからだ。本当の戦士には剣などいらぬ。
I'm sure you guys could do without another farmer simulator joke, but yes, this earlier part of season 2 consisted of Thorfinn just being a slave / farmer. If you're anime only like I was, the drastic change was unsettling at first, but easily needed. And I held a lot of hope for the show's direction. I thought it was realistic that Thorfinn was changing. He experienced traumatic events and a terrible upbringing. But I did get something wrong. What I got wrong was this change that Thorfinn went through. In my eyes, I thought he became a total pacifist. I thought he was never gonna fight again, and that simply is not right in this world. In the modern day, if I'm walking down the street and I punch someone, there's a lot of things wrong with that, and I'm probably getting tackled and arrested. And that reason is because I'm fortunate enough to live in an age that carries out laws and protects people. Although we still have our own issues that definitely need to be solved, compared to Thorfinn's time period, there are literal slave masters and conquerors, which can be said technically today, but let's not get into politics. What I'm trying to say is, in a way, I did not like Thorfinn's change simply because peace was just not possible during this time. Even Makoto Yukimura, the author of Vinland Saga, explained that violence was simply the time period.
乱暴なことはとても本当に怖くて、でも私の書くべきものにはバイキングが必要でした。話が通じない。よそへ行って人を殺していろんなものを奪い取ってくる。
Vikings had this code of honor and violence was a part of that. But that doesn't mean that one Viking can change. And also, Thorfinn is definitely not a pacifist. He's willing to fight. I mean, he won't use a sword, but you could catch these hands. I jumped to conclusions on Thorfinn's pacifist nature. Myself and a lot of other fans just needed to let Makoto cook. And I know you manga readers are looking down on me right now and other fans like, I told you so, I was right, this whole time, you anime only watchers just didn't know. But look, I knew I was gonna get proven wrong, but as someone who's anime only, or even if I was reading the manga, you have to allow yourself to be surprised. I mean, if I was just sitting there like, Thorfinn, I know you're not okay right now mentally, but you'll get better, you'll be just like your father, then what's the point of watching it? And Thorfinn is slowly becoming the spitting image of his father, but instead of the one who dies for the cause, he can be the one that will carry it on. A true warrior does not need a sword. The point of Vinland Saga was never about stopping violence. In reality, that's the same as saying you're gonna end world hunger. That's just not a realistic possibility. People eat more than they have to, there's laws that stop companies from giving out food, and so on. But none of this actually stops people from trying to help. People will go out to third world countries, they'll go out to homeless people on the streets and give them food. In the same way, Thorfinn is not going to end violence, nor is he going to stop fighting himself. He will still change for the better. And whether that inspires others or they just continue to fight is up to them. But Thorfinn is taking it upon himself to become a better person. And his father Thors is finally getting through to him. The other straight up amazing thing that I just have to commend Makoto for is the ability to show that it takes experiencing something to actually learn from it.
よく聞け、トルフィン。お前に敵などいない。誰にも敵などいないんだ。傷つけて良いものなどどこにもいない。
Doris tried his best, and unfortunately his time was cut short, but young Thorfinn had no chance of understanding what he really meant. This was a kid who was raised around violence. It was second nature for Vikings, and he even idolized his dad for who he was in the past, because that's what everyone else praised him for. This legendary Viking that spilled oceans of blood. But that's not the good man that Thor became, nor is it what he wanted to be remembered for. It's extremely clear that if he used a sword on that ship, Vinland Saga wouldn't exist. He would have killed Askeladd and everyone else on the ship and made it back home with Thorfinn. But instead, he realized his values. A lot of characters in the show, and even us as viewers, can call that stupid, but his death was needed to make the change. To show others the importance of not carrying a sword, even if it meant his death. But little Thorfinn only sees his father dying. And just like I would have been at a young age, I'm getting my revenge by any means possible. But as he grew up and even lost the complex figure that was Askeladd, he finally thought for a second. He thought about his surroundings, the nature he was taught versus what his father wanted him to believe. And somehow this story did not end at Thorfinn. One of the most compelling scenes was Gardar as he bleeds out on the carriage ride back home. He sees every version of himself, from the loving father to the first moment he spilled blood. And his end is nothing more than unfortunate. But what he sees and what I see is not just his, but all of these lives that are surrounded by violence. Whether you have the aggressive approach that Thorfinn and Gardar have, or the passive approach like Einar, it's clear how negative these killings are. Nothing ever good comes from it. It's always related to revenge or power. But the true values is ironically human life. These Vikings take away the intrinsic value that is human life for monetary or emotional reasons. And damn, that's all I could say. Makoto has such a good grasp on what violence is, and he demonstrates it in such a great timeline that people like me could look dumb. When we think that Thorfinn just got soft, or he gave up on fighting because he's traumatized, when in reality he's becoming the spitting image of the man before him. Vinland Saga is simply a masterpiece.